Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Back to School Night in our virtual and online world. Just a few moments to introduce myself. Eric Ledgerwood, your son or daughter's AP Environmental Science teacher. The contact information for me is very straightforward. eledgerwood at pausd.org is the quickest, best way to get to me, and I can generally get back to you right away. I do teach chemistry and AP Environmental Science, so always be sure to specify when you email in. Helps me to contextualize our conversation. My education background, very quickly, Bachelor's of Science in Animal Physiology and Neuroscience from UCSD, Thurgood Marshall College, when I went through it, third college, credentialing and graduate work at Eastern Michigan University. Love family and I love getting outdoors, and typically it's best when you can do both of those at the same time. So there's a little couple of photos of me out there enjoying the environment, as it were. As far as my values go, I love fostering an independence and love of learning with my students, challenge them to be their best, emphasize learning over grades, enjoy the diversity of those around them, and be selfish in your learning. I could probably go on for additional hours on all the values that go into this class, but basically, I want them to come out of it really loving their experience and having gained something that they didn't or couldn't get someplace else. As far as the course goals go, there's a lot of them. Again, I could probably spend a lot of time on it, but some of the highlights: develop a thorough understanding of environmental science concepts. If you're preparing for the AP exam, go ahead and let's do that. Challenge students to think critically about their world, learn how to solve complex scientific problems, and appreciate science and become educated consumers. The class AP Environmental Science is the most interdisciplinary possible. You can take a look at all the different disciplines there as you see on your screen. Great thing about it is that no matter what interests anybody, they can come at it from a pretty nice angle. And so whether you're from the science side or more of the humanities side, you can incorporate a lot of what you're interested in into the themes and the ideals of environmental science. Here's another way to look at that. Essentially, I like to teach the class as a guidebook to living on planet Earth, the one that I never had, and hopefully one I can give to the students. As far as the grading goes, it is a standards-based grading class, which is an upside. It's not percent-based. It's not just a matter of you did something well or you didn't do it, but the students are given very focused topics of what they need to learn, very focused learning objectives, and so they're assessed on that. The other nice thing is that they can come back to it if they're not quite sure on the first time, and they can relearn and reemphasize aspects of what they did learn. So the nice thing about that is we foster a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. If a student doesn't do very well the first time, that's just a great conversation to talk about things, to remediate, and then to come back and then see what they know. It's a 4-point scale. Oftentimes, it's not a percentage. So 2 out of 4 is not a 50%, 3 out of 4 not a 75%. 3 generally means proficient, and that's where we'd like the students to be. A 4 is kind of like, wow, you really went above and beyond. You didn't need to do that, but let's go ahead and try to acknowledge it. So if you see a lot of 3s on the mastery scale, we say 3 is where we want you to be. If you're putting more time and attention into trying to get 4s, it's unnecessary, and it doesn't necessarily you've learned the proficient level of what we want you to. There is hopefully going to be a separate video fairly soon as I can break down this a lot more detail about the standards-based grading and understanding the grade sheets that will come out. Schoology, as it currently is iterated, is not capable of actually explaining and detailing what the student's grade is based on these learning targets. They say by fall 2021 they may have something in place, but for now we have a separate grade sheet that's going to be pushed out as a Google sheet, and I'll have something to kind of show everybody what that looks like. But that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks. Anything you want to know about the class, the course guide? I don't want to spend all this time while I have just a few moments of your time in the evening here or afterwards. So just general resources folder that you can find on the Schoology site has got everything, and it really explains it in detail. And so that's the best first place to go. As far as Zoom goes, right now, so far, I absolutely love my classes. The students are great. They're all Zooming in. We're having, I think, as much as we can do online. But it is fatiguing, and I'm really concerned about that, especially as an environmental science teacher. So I'm going to try to do my best to get some moments where I can get them outside, get them observing nature, get them doing some nature journaling, seeing the world in different ways, and actually thinking about it in a really nice, critical way. What I'm trying to do is use the time during class for a little bit of lecture, trying not to have too much of that on any one day. 15, 20 minutes out of 75 minutes, I think, is about all I'd like to try to do. But what I am trying to give them do is time to actually have breakout rooms where they have meaningful time to collaborate with other people, to socialize. As social people or as a social species, I think that's the most important thing right now. they're not getting any of that socialization that they would on campus. And the feelings of isolation being in your own home is tough for most students. So that's really the critical thing, even a little bit above conceptual understanding at this point. We will be back on campus, I'm sure, at some point this year, and the socialization will kick in. But until then, we're going to try to give that a little bit as much as we can during our day as we Zoom in. So during the breaks and things like that, I'm really hoping that they're going to spend some time away from the computer, just trying to really add some balance to their lives. Distance learning has been a huge shift. It's been a huge shift in teaching as well. And so just suggestions to try to think about and to be successful is to have active attendance, to be there, to be present, to have your Zoom camera on, to work with other students as you can in that space. Have a planner, have a way to get things figured out in terms of what you need to do. If you can, define a workspace versus a fun space for students. I know most students by default end up in their rooms or something like that, in kind of a table area where they're probably spending it all day in there. But in as much as possible, try to differentiate those two things. Active breaks are great. I usually tell my students, on the 10-minute break, especially between classes, get away from the computer, use that to, if you need to grab a little snack, great. Maybe meditate for 5 minutes, great stuff on YouTube, all kinds of ways you can watch a short little video to help you do that. Maybe a few minutes of yoga, maybe it's a little, push-ups, sit-ups, some kind of, physical fitness routine. But something to get away from the computer, I think, is going to be really important for all of us. And in as much as possible in the 75-minute periods, I'd like to have at least a 5-minute break in there again when I can, just to give them that sense of distancing for just a moment. And of course, encouraging great communication with your student is great in terms of this, distance learning environment. It's new for all of us. None of us are experts at it yet. We're doing everything we can. We're trying everything we can, but we're iterating constantly. In some ways, it's probably like being in a startup where you're just constantly trying something that doesn't work, try something new, move on and do what we can. The class, as far as the class goes, is basically all on Schoology. And so if you get to Schoology and you see everything there, you'll notice that you'll find something that looks like this, where you got the breakdown. The students find the Zoom links. They find my office hour link. All the current unit calendar stuff is in green. So we just keep it very consistent for them. As soon as you go to that first folder, you'll see a breakdown of the different days. Again, days highlighted in green that we're on. So we're just trying to make those kinds of things really easy for students to get to and to participate in the classes. The general resources folder that you can see there has basically all the stuff that they need for the class. And then as we have past units, we'll find those at the bottom archived. So just try to streamline the Schoology experience and try to make sure that everything is on Schoology so that their Schoology calendar is meaningful. I generally don't activate the days until the day of. And so what that means is that if the student is checking the calendar, they do want to do that throughout the week and sort of, see what's coming up. They will see a playlist for the entire week, which is great. So they can sort of, on their own, populate their own calendars to make sure that they have sort of a parsing out of where their time is going to be spent throughout the day. And quizzes and things like that are typically given toward the end of the week. So for our classes, that will typically be on a Friday. And so that's something, again, that they'll kind of want to look at in terms of that playlist for the full week, so that they don't suddenly get to Thursday and realize, oh my gosh, I do have a quiz on Friday. I will, of course, be talking about that in the actual classes, throughout the week. So that's a real quick and amazing, fast and furious substitute for being in person. I apologize. Of course, we're like this and we can't be there to see each other. But I probably did save you a little bit on your parking situation and not having to worry about that. So there might be one upside there. But hopefully we'll be back and have some opportunity to have a face-to-face time on campus at some point throughout the year. I look forward to that. Welcome to Environmental Science. Email me anytime. And thanks for all your tremendous support at home as we all work through this together to get us to the point where we can once again be face-to-face. Thanks so much. Take care.